Hello, and welcome to my channel. I am Damien Marie AtHope. In the simplest terms, I am an atheist-humanist philosopher and prehistorical writer-researcher at DamienMarieAtHope.com. I am specifically an axiological atheist. An axiological atheism can be thought to involve ethical and value theory reasoned and moral argument driven apatheism, agnosticism, atheism, antitheism, antireligionism, secularism, and humanism. Axiological atheist can be understood as a value theory or a value science atheist. As an axiological atheism's ethically reasoned and constructive pro-humanity. I am an axiological thinker, value theorist. The science of goodness, worthiness, usefulness, valuableness, virtue, reliableness, accuracy, validity, morality, integrity, beneficialness, etc., etc. We axiologists have a value consciousness. And in general, we see the architecture of humanistic humanitarianism value in people that we see as dignity beings. Places and things are not. Axiology is a value theory. In its broadest sense, it involves areas of philosophy that are deemed to encompass some evaluative or evaluation aspect. Therefore, it crosses almost all domains in some way or another. Now for a more detailed terms as to what I am. I am an axiological atheist, an anti-theist, an anti-religionist, secularist, humanist, rationalist, writer, artist, poet, philosopher, advocate, activist with schooling in psychology, sociology, as well as I am an autodidact, self-taught in science, archaeology, anthropology, and philosophy. I promote science and am against pseudoscience, pseudo-history, pseudo-morality, things that are found in religion. I support realism, axiology, of course, liberty, justice, ethics. I am also an anarchist socialist. I support anarchism and socialism, progressivism, liberalism, philosophy, psychology, archaeology, and anthropology, advocating for sexual, gender, child, secular, LGBTQIA+, race, class rights, and equality. So if you can guess from all that, I support or challenge that I have an eclectic variety of videos on a variety of topics. Please take time to check them out, as well as if you enjoy them, please give them a like. And don't forget to subscribe, as new things are on their way all the time for my channel.
How's it going?
Right on. Good. Yeah, he's biting at the bit, so I'm like, yeah, let's get it going.
Might as well.
Crack-a-lackin'. And also, I thought that he wanted to come on and be way more solidarity, but if he wants to do challenge, I'm fine with that.
Sure.
Obviously, I was just letting you know that, but like I said privately, I was letting you know that I'm on your side. Not because like you're like teammate, which is, I feel like we are. It's just so you know. I don't feel like it's Damien's show when you're here. I feel like it's our show. So
right.
Your ideas, but also just so everyone's listening to this. I'm going to show all this. I'm not hiding. Because that's just me. I like to just tell it all.
Yeah, be upfront.
Anyways, be upfront. All good. Because also I'm doing something different than other people are doing. My thing is really I'm trying to teach. Even in every behavior that I do, what is a healthy behavior? So so people know. Damien is not claiming to be always healthy. Believe me, I am not. But that's wisdom to know that you're also not, and that there's sometimes though, and this I wanted to say about real quick. about that is that sometimes I have more like self-will or whatever you want to call it, or, and sometimes I have almost nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm wisdom. When I feel like blabbering, crying, that's not the time to talk to people. It's not time to do stuff. That's also why I realized I need to step back from the like when I say I used to be an activist. What I mean is direct activism.
Right.
Like, I'm going to go out in the public and I'm going to challenge anyone that comes at me. Well, now, no longer. That's not healthy for me anymore. My emotional state's too fucking, because of PTSD and my mother dying and all my own stuff just piled on my own head. Plus, I'm moving. My life is changing. My wife is, getting this new job. I mean, I'm going to start this new business. I mean,
it can just burn a guy out too. Like, I spent so many years arguing with people that I try to avoid it as much as I can now. Like, I just it just burns a person out.
Right, you get what I'm saying. So I just want people to know that it's also like I'm not. It's not that I won't want to do stuff like I'm not scared of nobody. I could tear through anybody. To me, in my opinion. So, but that's not. That's no value to me. And if things don't positively change, what does it matter? I mean, who wins? To me, I'm talking about. I'm not, because I don't like sports. That whole winning. To me, winning is the truth wins.
Yeah,
that's winning.
That's right. Dignity
wins. That's winning. Humanity wins. That's not Damien wins. I want humanity to win. If Damien has to be on Hanny's side, great. If not, then please support humanity, not Damien.
Yeah, if that means that I happen to be wrong, then okay.
Yeah. So I just want to address that with you. And you and me, I want you to know, too, that openly in front of everyone, Cory, to me, is like family. So he's been there for me, and I want to be there for him. So, just so, in general, if I seem like I'm taking your side, would more than I normally would with someone else, well, you're family. So, also,
so that's how that works.
You probably don't want to do that.
That's one of those things. When my partner and we were discussing things, like, we can disagree about a lot of stuff, but I'm not going to challenge her in public the same way I would someone else, right?
Totally.
We can disagree in private about whatever.
But, although I would say the good thing about you and me is we don't even have to even do on that level, because our thinking value-wise, of course, you can have labels to everything. I always laugh because labels are funny, because what do you mean by that word? Everyone uses that word, not always have the same values in that same word. Like, whoa.
Yeah, that's right.
So like communism to me, like, just not everyone else's opinion, just Damien. When I hear it, I go, ooh, good people. That's all I hear.
Right.
But everyone else has all kinds of opinions that go every freaking way. But so I'm just saying, that's like before when I say I'm not a communist, it's just not because I don't value communism. It's a thought that what people call, it's just communism, but people call it full communism. I guess this is themselves that somehow
final stage
they have communism, but there's something else. But actually, that's the real communism. You have a reformed version of communism, which we're going to talk to today. A reformer that calls himself a reformer, but Damien feels if you're not a full communist, you're a reformer. But anyway, so about full communism. So it's not that I don't like it. I think it sounds great. I just don't think it's feasible.
Right.
Period. I understand psychology and I understand the history of the world. The thought that we can get, not that wasn't great, but thought we can get back to that with the global human society, I don't see it possible. It's only to me possible in small, like, communes kind of thing. And that is a possibility, multiple communes, but still, yeah. Then you have some asshole in one commune that wants to become a warlord, and then takes over all the other communes, and then you end up with fucking nightmare.
Yeah, so you have to set up safeguards, right? Like, you have to figure out a way to avoid these things.
I'm just saying, so it's way more complicated. I don't want to go into all right now, because I wanted to go get the link to that guy. I just wanted to just get straight you and me before we bring him on.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yep.
That's all. All right, I'm going to give him the link right now.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. All righty. But anyways, I'll go back to what I say. I don't debate people. Like, from now on, like my book and stuff, I'm not debating nobody. I don't care. If they like my stuff, great. I'm a teacher. That's how I see myself now. I was a teacher. If you want to learn from me, I'm ready to teach. If you want to ask me questions or in a comforting thing, talk to me, challenge over. But if you want to like do debate, I have no time for that. Zero.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
I'm going to go on and be a jeweler and live my life, and then just do teaching as a fun thing that I like to do.
Yep.
That's why I said I really want to do stuff mainly with you, because I know that every time I'll have fun.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Since I don't feel like I'm an activist now, I'm doing stuff because it's my own personal enjoyment in life, and also, like I said, I like teaching. And
sure.
Cory, it's not like I don't have a lot to teach.
Right. Yeah. I think that approach can be more effective too. Like, I don't know if people listen when they're debating, right? So if you find somebody who's coming to you to get taught stuff that you already know, that's much more productive, I think.
Right. And I'll answer questions, but if it starts becoming like 5, 6, 7 questions, I'm done.
Yeah.
No, this is becoming a debate. No.
Well, and you can tell too, because some people, they ask questions in a certain way.
Oh, well, and
makes
some
it
people
clear
say things that are just wrong. This is the biggest problem with me, I know, online. I am too educated. I'm talking to people that I do get, don't really, even if they say they have college degrees, well, I understand philosophy in a lot better way than some philosophers. So, you're probably not going to win with me. But anyway, so I talk to people, and they'll say things that are just logical fallacies. They don't get it. It's like the guy yesterday. And I didn't even delete his thing. I almost blocked him. I didn't say I blocked him. I just told him, you need to stop. And he did. But because I was like, anyway, so my point was he tried to smuggle. Can I give that guy the link? Yes. Hold on, let me tell him. Yeah, I do want to talk to their guys, so hopefully.
Yeah.
But if not, hey, like I said, this is like I told you. If I'm with you, it's all good anyways.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah.
But so, what's exactly I was talking about before I realized he wasn't on?
The guy that you didn't block.
Okay, they didn't block. So what he had said to me, he tried to smuggle. I understand, like, thinking. He said something. It's a trick. Oh, here he is. Hey, how you doing?
I'm a bit nervous, but
oh yeah. Just so you know, I'm a really laid back person. I know I'm really intense, but ethically, I don't attack people. That's not my deal.
No, I wasn't expected to be attacked, so.
Good. Well, that's meant about you being nervous. I'm just saying, I want to hear your ideas. So you're here because you're a valued guest, not because we're anarchists and they're gonna attack you. That's all I was trying to get to. And for everyone else to know too, I do want to hear what Christian has to say. I see his posts. I also want to say that I really find him to be a really credible person. So no matter what your things we may differ on, for me always it's values. I see are a good person. That to me is more important than the little labels that either of us have to me. But go ahead and could you introduce us? Tell us about you and go for it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I said I was nervous because I'm not used to public,
okay.
Speaking, and I will also start to say I have a bit of a stammer, so
no problem.
So you are, aware of that. My name is Christian, and I'm from Norway.
Okay.
I'm really bad at doing this introduction thing, so it's probably better if you guys.
We're anarchists, so we don't have no like exact standard other than we strive to tell the truth.
Yes.
And so that's just be. We don't judge you. You're Stamber.
No.
I'm saying whatever's fine. You don't even have to apologize. That's all I meant. Just be you.
I'm just saying I'm really bad at introducing myself. So
right on.
It's probably easier for me if you just ask me questions to just get the ball rolling.
So why don't you start, Cory? Since you know more
what's your I guess a question I like to ask on my other show is like, what is your political tendency? What do you identify with?
I would say the best word for my type of socialism is reformist socialism, which are basically what social democracy was 100 years ago. But social democracy today are no longer socialist. They have kind of
Right.
drifted away from even having the goal of a society based on common ownership of the means of production, right? Like modern day, social democrats are in favor of some kind of capitalist system.
So for the reform part, what does that kind of mean? Like, does that mean you believe in reforming this system as it currently exists into a socialist system, or does that mean, if you could maybe expand on that a little bit?
Well, it means basically two things. So it means it's perhaps a very naive and optimistic idea, but it's basically the idea that in a modern capitalist society, the large majority of the population are of the working class, and
that's not a guess. So far you're on facts.
No, but the naive part comes now, right? So
okay,
the idea
I was like, that part's not naive.
In the context of a representative, democracy, then as long as you are able to, awaken a kind of class consciousness in the working class, then you can, they can win power through, elections. So that's part one, that you can win political power through elections, like you can win a super majority in theory.
Okay.
Right?
In theory, okay.
That's a long, like in the United States.
Do you mean that's your goal?
That's
how we've arrived, or do you mean that's a platform and then you have a other, or is there no other goal?
Well, that's kind of the first step, right? If you want.
I don't know.
No. Okay, so yeah. It's the first step in my idea of how we will, transform society into socialism, right? Into a socialist society.
And what would socialism to you be? Would it be like people call full communism, or what to you is the socialism? What is that? Get that word in a sense packed into it for you?
Well, I think that. Well, so like socialism would, if it ever is realized, it will. We don't know how it will look in detail.
That's correct. No one knows. What I'm saying is for you, what would be future. Like? I know what my goal would be. I want a collectivist, mutualist society. That would be my goal. I'm an anarcho-humanist, so I believe all of us should work together. But to me, an anarcho-humanist, you could be an anarcho-humanist as far as I'm concerned, as long as you hold to the value. Well, no, but what I meant is you don't have to change who you are. Anarcho-socialism is a value thing. It's about anarcho-humanism. It's about behavior. It's saying no matter what society is, even if there is no government, no society, and everything is totally shit, we are still going to be the same. We are going to have values because this is the correct way to be as a person. Is a value standard.
Okay.
We treat everyone equal, regardless if there's different standards. In other words, like if someone comes in and has a degree, Damien doesn't treat them any different.
Okay.
If they're a person homeless.
But to answer your question, what do I mean by socialism? I mean, I simply mean a society based on common ownership of the means of production.
And could you explain that?
So, I don't know if we ever will reach a society, a form of society that Marx, how Marx describes the higher phase of communism. I don't know that. But I do believe we can make a society that is kind of the synthesis of socialism, as in the common ownership of the means of production and democracy. And that's something you can get to from where we are now. How that will develop after that have been realized, it may develop into what Marx describes as the higher phase of communism.
And that's what I was saying. Would that be your goal? I know Marx has a different opinion, but I'm saying you personally. What is Christian's goal for the future? Your ultimate goal would be the same as Marx. That's all I was asking.
My goal, since I live here and now in this time and place, and we live under capitalism, my goal would be, or my wish is to see that the working class are able to organize together, win political power, and transition to what I would just describe, basically a synthesis between democracy and socialism. Socialism, again, understood as common ownership of the means of production. Right. How that will develop after that, I don't know. If it will become essentially stateless after a couple of hundred years, I don't know. But my goal is that, because that's the first goal. Like, we can't jump over phases, right? We can't jump to communism, right away. And since we live under capitalism, our goal should be, or my goal, I'm not saying what your goals are supposed to be, but my goal would then be some kind of democratic state socialism, I guess.
Well, and I've told Cory this, my personal feelings is I don't want any leaders of any kind, period. Now, that doesn't mean society cannot come up with group ideas. Like I was talking about anarcho-humanism, realizing there's certain standards of behavior that should be applied, period, no matter the person, place, thing, no matter the time, no matter anything. Like, say, rape. Rape is never just, period.
I tend to agree.
Right. So
I would even say that we actually already have some of these things without laws, without like there are social standards that don't rely on the legal
because
system.
In a sense, that's what because to me, anarcho-humanism makes so much sense that once you hear it, you go, oh yeah, that's why. Who would be against that? But my point is, I was going to say to you is that I'm cool with that. The whole point is that that's what the same thing where I feel like I'm a mutualist. I want benefit now. Because that's the only thing that I have a difference in some socialists, not saying you, but some socialists want to wait until just full communism and then we'll start helping people. I'm like, there's people that are starving in the street now. There's kids that need help right now.
And that's why before before a party of the workers gain a super majority, they fight for social reforms within the context of capitalism right now, right?
I totally, in that sense, Christian, we're the same.
What Bernie Sanders did, right? He agitated for Medicare for all, and
I voted twice for that guy, trying to get him in.
And those reforms in themselves won't move us beyond capitalism, but they will improve the lives of people under capitalism, right?
And that thinking is anarcho-humanism. That we should help as much as possible, as often as possible, forever.
Well, I would just say that just being able to have the concept of short-term goals and long-term, goals, and
right, which is wisdom. And that's why I like you, because I feel like that you understand also, like. So I really can understand why sometimes people, attack different thinking like yours. Like you said, you seem to get a lot of hate on Twitter. Like, damn, man. Like, you seem like a pretty cool guy. Am I really missing something?
That's just how socialists and communists treat each other. If you disagree with one point, then you are
fireball.
Then you are worse than than the capitalist class itself, right? Then you are enemy number one because you disagree with one point of doctrine, right?
Yeah.
And
not healthy.
I posted on Twitter like this joke. Somebody else had made it, but it was this guy who it basically said it was a guy who met another guy on a bridge, and the guy wanted to kill himself because he was so depressed because it was so much leftist infighting. And then this other guy started asking, "What kind of socialists are you?" And then they both are Marxist, Leninist, Maoists, but they're like they belong to two different versions of MLM. And then the other guy just say die, you bourgeois shitlord, and then he pushed him off the bridge, right?
Yeah.
And that's basically, how it is to be a socialist with other socialists or communists or
Yep.
anarchist or
I'm learning.
well,
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you, because you seem bright. Don't you see that as a problem? Because I see that as a problem.
But it's always been a problem, right? So it's a reason you had that bit in Life of Brian, with the Judean People's Front and the Popular Front of Judea, or whatever, right? Like
Yeah.
basically the same thing, but then they're like pointing at the other guy and like splitter, So this has always been a part of the socialist labor movement, right? Like if you go back to the 1840s and you see Marx's how Marx argued with like Proudhon in the 1840s and or with Bakunin in the 60s and 70s, right? And with all other kinds of people, right? Like Weitling, I guess, also in the 1840s, and after Marx, you had the revisionist debate in the SPD, the German party, and then you had the split between the Mensheviks and the Bolshevik in the Russian party, and so on and so forth, and that's a major part of the history of socialism, right? And that's of course a problem, but it's also what makes that history a bit more interesting, though. That is argument.
Dude, history is already interesting. It didn't need to have anything on it. Trust me. I know shitloads about prehistory. Cory's learned.
And I know you do. That's your thing, like prehistory stuff.
Well, because what the thing it really was, why I ended up in prehistory is not because I went to school to get a psychology degree and be an interventionist with drug addicts. I mean,
Okay.
so I'm now not doing anything close to what I was going to do. But they told me I had to take 2 religious classes. And I was a Christian. I wanted to be a Christian counselor. And I was a Republican, like, total capitalist shithole. I mean, I was a dickhead. A homophobe. I was a dickhead, believe me. So then they told me to take these 2 religious classes. I almost dropped out. I did not want to learn anything about religion. Oh, it pissed me off. I was a Christian. I already know about religion. I don't need to learn nothing, which is, sounds very Christian. So but I had to take these classes because they said that they don't feel it's ethical to put counselors out there with a bigoted opinion and not knowing about other religions. And which is very healthy, because that's what turned me atheist. Because so I took the first class, and it was the first time I'd ever learned about other religions. I didn't even know more than 5 versions of Christianity. I mean, I was stupid as hell. And then but all of a sudden I learned, Taoism, and I learned, Islam and Buddhism, and I learned Native American beliefs and Nordic, and I learned all these different, Aztecs, I learned all these different beliefs. And I started going, wait a minute, I think I see a theme here. They all say that they have the answers to the afterlife, and it's their books and their teachers and their way and their stuff and their morality, and it's their version of hell and their version of heaven or whatever afterlife in between. That could be, there's all kinds of other stuff. But the point is, I just started realizing, wait a minute, all these things they're all saying the same thing. They cannot all be true. And here they all making these claims out of nowhere. It started making me think, wait a minute, how do I know my beliefs? It was the first time
not to make this into a religious debate, but you can interpret it in another way, that they all are different expressions of the same truth.
Oh, well, they are
people.
Yeah, I would say they aren't truth, but they all, I would agree, they all are the same.
I'm not saying you're true, but totally you can interpret it that way.
Yes, they're interpreted as being truth. Well, and here's the thing is, they can say a few, like philosophy, they can say a few things that are true. It doesn't make
I think you. So I'm not religious myself, but some religious people can say that even though there are all these different kinds of religions out there, and they they differ on things. They still are the same. They are the expression of God, but in different ways, like from different cultures.
Well, there's
I'm not saying
actually
that's the case.
religious
I'm saying
that
that some
hold that
religious
opinion.
people can argue that, and it's I would say it's a valid interpretation as long as you believe there is some kind of higher intelligence behind it all, right?
Well, but to be valid,
if you believe that, right?
Okay, hey, there's a difference between valid in the sense of that it's rationally valid, and then there's a coherence theory of truth, which means valid only unto its own thinking. So those are two different kinds. So you need to understand when you're saying that we're valid, it's not the same as rational. Valid can be like, in other words, Superman can fly in Superman land, but he cannot handle that much kryptonite in Superman land. But there, in reality, is no such thing as Superman, no such thing as kryptonite. Right. So it is illogical, but to explain it, you can make a logical argument inside Superman land theory thinking.
Okay, so I don't. Well, I guess I have to stand up for the the religious people here, but
okay. So hold on a second though. What part of what I have said yet is attacking religious people? Did you I'm saying that because you said you felt you need to defend them, but I'm just saying what part of what I said.
Counter argument, Damien. I'm
not trying to make an argument. I'm asking a question. What part of what I said made you feel a need to defend religious people?
It's just a way of speaking, right? It's just a way to
I didn't understand. I'm asking a question.
In the argument, So what I wanted to say is that there are limits now to what we know about reality. We don't know what happened before Big Bang. We don't know if it even was something before Big Bang, right? And you could argue. This is not my position, but I'm just saying that you could argue that outside of the limit of human knowledge, there could be some higher form of intelligence that kind of have set everything in motion. You could argue that, right?
Well, we can also argue that everything is as it looks,
disprove that claim,
which
right?
is natural at every element, in every way, in every test, in every science, forever.
Outside of what science can tell us right now.
Science can't tell us a thing has to at some point be true.
Science can't. There are things science can't tell us right now, right? So in that,
but see, that is a fallacy. You're throwing out a defense as if it is the argument. What is science then? I'm going to ask you. Dude, you don't even want to get started with me about.
Dude, I'm not a scientist.
No, I know you're not. I'm not talking about scientists here. I'm going to talk about science from a philosophy time, and the same way of ideas.
To me, science is a method to.
It's actually multiple methods. Don't even say it's one method because it's even if you say,
ask me what I thought science was.
Scientific method, right? Scientific method is rationalism, it is empiricism, it is skepticism, it is fallibilism, it is also foundationalism in a sense because it defines the world already as a starting point of methodological naturalism. Not metaphysical naturalism like Damien believes, which is there is nothing but natural. It puts the position that doesn't seem to be anything but natural, and thus we'll accept that until we see different. That's the only difference it is. It's still almost atheist. It's atheist with an agnostic caveat, in a sense, or whatever. But that doesn't matter. I don't want to get into about science right now. I want to go back to the history stuff that you know about socialism. So I would say that what would you say is that because you know a lot of the socialist history. What is some of the greatest? Because I want to hear this. What are some of the greatest things or events or times or things that people should know about socialism? I want to hear about it.
Okay,
if you know. To you.
To me?
Yeah.
I haven't really thought about that. So it's the most important, I guess. Still are the Paris Commune is important, of course. The Russian Revolution. In relation to the historical significance, especially the Russian Revolution. The Paris Commune is more important, more as a kind of a mythical event within the tradition of socialism. It's important to socialists in their self-understanding of their own history. But of course, the historical significance in reality of the Paris Commune was minuscule, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Just so you know, I don't even know what you're talking about.
And
So
it's
you can go ahead and explain it.
Been given
Tell
more
me.
weight than it basically was that the workers of Paris took power over Paris for a short while, and then they were crushed by the French state.
Oh, really?
So the Commune died, but it was the first self-government by workers in the world.
Oh, right on.
So that's the significant to historians. No, I mean, sorry, to socialists, but it's not. It doesn't have the same. Didn't have the same like historical ramifications as the Russian Revolution did, right?
Well, and hold on one second. I think that what you said right there about them being crushed, I think that in a sense is the issue it's not that I take, but that I see with full communism mentality, is that there's too many assholes in the world that have already had this mentality about killing and taking and stealing and power makes right or whatever, that we're going to have people that guard. I mean, you can't have an unguarded world anymore, to me. So that's the only thing it doesn't mean that I don't think the workers can't control that. I think that that's the only people I want to be controlling, in a sense, is the society, not a government, to me. But it should be, to me, about this. My feeling is this, though. That's why I was saying to Cory that about voting. My goal is that I want the most vulnerable person in society to not be threatened to that vulnerability. So any society that does this more is, to me, better. But at the same time, I don't want to get nanny state at the thing that nobody has freedom. That also, so I'm just saying, but I'm saying something in there has to be I prefer a healthy balance. But obviously, I understand that sometimes it's balance. So I may have to accept I'm an anarchist, but I may have to accept some sort of a, government by the people. Certainly better to me than.
Then you are no longer an anarchist if you take that position.
Yeah,
right?
but you're talking about what I'll accept, not who I am.
It also depends on where you draw that line of what a government qualifies as, because there's a lot of theory in anarchism that discusses like decentralized communities that are
federation.
Yeah, that kind of are part of larger decentralized community,
right.
And
that's what I'm totally for.
Those each smaller community has direct democracy within it, and then sends representatives to represent themselves, like much like the UN.
To me. Well, I think that as long as the government doesn't have a monopoly of force within its geographical area, then it's not. That's what makes it a state, right?
Right.
That like military and police is what makes the state.
Yeah, which is
you talked about me not being anarchist. I have a question for you. So since full communism is stateless, are you saying that it somehow has not accepted or adopted anarchist thinking? Since you said I can lose anarchist thinking, can you, by way of not any choice of your own, but just by choosing an idea, choose to be anarchist thinking?
Okay, so I think when I'm going to use anarchism as a term in my argument now, I'm going to use that kind of anarchism that's closest to Marxist socialism, basically, kind of like understand the difference. That's basically that, like Marxists see that it's necessary after the revolution or after the working class have taken power to have a state to defend the transition to socialism, meaning you have you maintain the monopoly of force of the government, but then a government that don't preserves the power of the capitalist class, but preserves the power of the the working class, which is essentially what the dictatorship of the proletariat is. Doesn't mean that it has to be dictatorial in form. It should be in the form of a democratic state.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Well, so while the anarchists, on the other hand, don't they don't see the need for that
True.
intermediary phase between capitalism and the higher phase of communism. They basically want to get to that point sooner and without some form of a state. That's the basic difference between an anarchist communist and a regular communist, and I guess old school, socialists, since they also had that, classless society as an end goal, right?
Right.
Yeah, like that's the one thing that we always say when we're discussing among.
Okay, you go tell us really quick about your political ideas, just so people know. What's Cory? I'm saying.
Oh,
yeah. Go ahead and talk. I'm sorry to cut you off. I was just saying we haven't really addressed you, just because I know you're an anarcho-communist.
Yeah, I call myself an anarcho-communist.
Specifically talking about you.
Which is why I feel we can have comrades of various tendencies, because we do all have kind of the same end goal of a stateless, socialist society where everything is owned by everyone and we all have what we need. Like we're working towards the best society we can work towards, right? So
right.
We have different methods.
In my case, if it's a stateless society, to me it's immaterial. As long as it's classless, that's what's important to me. If that necessitates some form of a state, to organize society, then you need a state to, if it's impractical to do it without the state. So the state thing is, to me, not important. I used to be an anarchist, but I
find myself that the existence of the state perpetuates the class separation.
I would agree. Sorry, I just throw it in.
It seems to, even in like the Bolshevik Russia, and even in Maoist China, you still had a class separation.
Sure.
And I mean, it's still perpetuated now, even in China.
But there are other reasons why those
there's
it's because they didn't follow Marx. They didn't try to transition to socialism in an advanced capitalist society with democratic institutions. They tried this in countries that hadn't gone fully through the capitalist phase itself. So they had to, by necessity, create some kind of state capitalist society, because they were so far away from something we would call socialism, right?
Yeah.
And like Lenin, I think, even acknowledged that problem, because he was somewhat of a orthodox Marxist himself. So I don't think that's a very good example. I think if we ever saw a fully social society with a democratic superstructure, with a democratic state, and we saw how that functioned and how that developed, then we would know if you are right or
that is the trouble, is that we currently, like, these socialist states, they have to exist within the world as it exists, right? So they do have to defend themselves against the outside agitators. And like, that's why you have in Latin America, you have so many attempts at communism or socialism being interrupted by the US.
Right. And how is that not terrorism in the world? Wow. Even let's just say, like, because the US can say anything they want for their own values. But let's just, if the US would just take a look, step back from itself, and just, no, I'm just serious. I should say it differently. People that live in the US, step back for a moment. Don't get angry. You're not attacking the US the way you think. If you step back from the US and you have countries choosing communism or choosing whatever they want, they're voting people in. The US sends people down to take over the country or stop that or change that. Do you not see the problem? And that these are not freedom. How is it if someone's choosing something and you go in and you attack them? It's just terrorism.
But the important question is, why have USA done that? Since the at least since the 40s, like 1940s.
Yeah.
And it's not because it's not a matter of, and this is the difference between, I guess, idealism and materialism. So an idealist would say that this is just a choice America makes, right? It's just about ideology. It's just about choice. While the materialist perspective would be, you have a capitalist class in America, which their interest is in that the world remains capitalist. And it would be bad for their personal interest if the world turned, socialist or communist. Ergo, they are willing to use military, force in different ways to
there's
retard the development of socialist countries.
It's the material
done, right?
Yeah, it's the material interest of the capitalist class, but also they use idealism to convince the populace of
they
position,
use
right?
ideology they use some form of liberalism as a justifying ideology, and that's the purpose of liberalism. It started out as an emancipatory ideology under feudalism, right? To argue for equal rights.
Right, which is why I still call myself a liberal, not because I'm attached to what they say, but because the actual look it up in the dictionary.
Okay,
that word, yeah.
But it devolved essentially into, because it always was the interest, the ideology of that in favor of the interests of the bourgeoisie, right? So when the bourgeoisie became the new upper class, it became a conservative upper class ideology, right? So, and I guess people are confused when I use the word liberalism here because they are Americans, but both modern day conservatism and the kind of more left, what Americans call liberalism, which I guess I would call that social liberalism, but they have both like different kinds of liberalism. But modern day conservatism, the conservatism of the Conservative Party in Britain or the Republican Party in your country, or Høyre, which is the Conservative Party in my country, are all types of liberal ideologies, right? Which main point is to give an ideological defense or justification for capitalism, and to present capitalism as natural, as universal, and not historically contingent, which is right. Capitalism is.
Hold on, I didn't understand. What word did you say? 500
years old.
Hold on, what word did you say? Capitalism is what? Start again. What you said? Capitalism is something, and I don't know what word you said.
I said that liberalism, the main purpose of liberalism.
You said capitalism is something, and you said
I can't remember. Then I just need to say it again, right? Yeah. So
sorry.
Liberalism is the main purpose of liberalism as an ideology today is to justify the existence of capitalism and present capitalism as it is natural and universal and not historically contingent. As in,
with that word,
that's the word.
It's a very new form of mode of production and distribution in the history of mankind, right? It's very different from.
What is condiment or whatever that? What does that word mean? I don't know that word.
What capitalism means as a word?
No,
no.
I'm not a walking dictionary, man.
You said
before this.
You said something about historically contingent.
Historically contingent. It means that it. You are the people that speak your native language here. I'm speaking my second language.
No, I know. I wasn't putting you down. I was saying I didn't understand. That's a word I don't know.
Okay. So it means, so in Norwegian that sentence would be kapitalisme historisk betinget. And no, you didn't understand anything.
I'm like, wow, that was worse than before. Now I understood none of it.
Yeah. Okay. So it simply means that it didn't exist, and then historical development put it into existence at some point, right? So it's not eternal. It's not universal. It's not natural.
Well, right. And you and me agree on that exact point. Everything you said, 100%. Only the difference for me is it starts 7,000 years ago, not where you.
Then we disagree
But I do agree.
Then we disagree a lot because then you're probably operating with a different definition of capitalism than
I'm operating the one that's right out of Wikipedia. It is a arcane, whatever, loose, not organized. It's like a non-state form of capitalism. Capitalism later, by 5,000, is part of the state. In Egypt, in fact, they have their first riot, in a sense, because they didn't give wages to the laborers for 2 weeks of beer and bread and something else. I can't remember now. But
okay, so but the difference is that there were capitalists in the Marxist sense of the word, right? Because
they explain what it was to you.
Societies of antiquity were predominantly slave society, so a large portion of the population were slaves, and the other were freemen, and within that you had even in Rome you had a small portion of the population were
I'm not disagreeing with that.
Which are
it actually starts about probably 6,500 or something.
So the modern day iteration, what I call capitalism didn't exist in Egypt or Rome, or in the Neolithic era, or in the at least.
Right, but I was just saying that to me, it doesn't go past 7,000. Right? That's all I was saying. So we agree with the main point.
But
it is not something natural. I can tell you where. I can tell you why. There's a sequence of events that happened in this one area, and then it just germinates right out of this area. In fact, it is southern Germany and western Austria. That area
where are you now in history or prehistory?
At 7,000. I'm talking about 7,000.
Okay, now then we disagree. Because at the historical point.
But that's fine. But
there are elements.
But I'm still saying that I find it still valid, though, that capitalism is not natural. Yeah. Capitalism, there was plenty of society, including hierarchy society, without capitalism.
Yeah,
to me,
right.
that's what I'm saying. Right. I'm saying that capitalists saying it's always been bullshit. And in fact, when it happened, it was the highest inequality that the world had ever seen, and it only got worse. So
the problem, though, is that you put its origins way further back than I do, right? We've been talking thousands of years, and that's a big difference. So we agree that it's not natural or universal or not historically. It doesn't have. We agree it arose at some point in history. We disagree strongly on where, and that's a very important fact.
So you say where it happened in England?
I see, how I understand.
So where do you say it actually started? England, Germany, France?
Well, modern industrial capitalism starts in Britain in the 18th century.
So is there a non-industrial capitalism?
But you have primitive elements, like capitalist elements within feudal society going back to around the 15th century. But that's only in pockets in some, like in Italy, right? With these free
that's
states.
What I was asking,
like that, right? But it's first in the 18th century that what we now understand as industrial capitalism really starts to develop, and after a while moves out of Britain and into France, not to that big degree, but America, Germany, and eventually most countries in the world, and becomes the dominant mode of production and distribution and exchange globally, which is now, right? Which is not the case in the 15th century, where you had some Italian merchants that that you may call proto capitalists, right? It's more of a proto state of capitalism, but kind of the elements that forms capitalism developed before capitalism itself, because capitalism kind of come out of those different elements in the 18th century. That's how I understand it. And
I think part of the distinction is a lot of modern Marxists and such, they view feudalism as an entire separate thing before capitalism, where the way that Damien, and pardon me if I'm misinterpreting what you're saying, you incorporate capitalism and feudalism kind of in the same kind of
it is the
both.
same. It's just a different
So-
kind.
so-
Just so in other words, to me, there's like 15 or 20 different kinds of capitalism. Capitalism to me is not one kind of a thing.
If you talk about class society, if
Yeah,
you
class
exchange the word
society.
capitalism for class society,
Class
then we can
society
agree.
started 7,000 years ago, 100%.
Capitalism is just the newest form of class society, which is different than the feudal
Right, but I'm
class
just saying to
society
you, before
slave
7,000,
society.
graves were equal. People, even when there was a leaders, kind of, it was a leader, but
Yeah,
still
that's what Marx called ur-communism, right? Or primitive communism in English.
Mhm.
I guess
Well, and I said that they're
Ur-Kommunismus
definitely
in German.
like, to me, that's what I was going to say to you. To me, everything starts is animist, anarchist, socialist, or communist, whatever. That's how the entire world starts. The animists are all that. Then society develops into totemism. Totemism immediately puts a leader, immediately puts the clan matters more than non-clan. It starts making a whole bunch of stuff, tribalism things, and then things that are profane and sacred, things you can do and not do, rules. Anyways, so it becomes this different society. Anarchism is gone to me. It kind of goes once in a while, but most for the rest of human history, it's gone to me.
Well, okay,
It's still communist, though. I was going to say, it's still a form of socialist communist, though. It stays that, really, I feel, until 7,000. 7,000 is when a whole world was communist, and then capitalist starts and then took over communism, to me. Then the workers realize
capitalism for class society, maybe we are in agreement, but I think that's, is the usage. Our quibble here is about the usage of the word.
I want you to know that doesn't matter.
Because I agree that after the Neolithic Revolution, eventually the first class society emerges out of that after thousands of years of humans settling down and experimenting with farming and domesticating large animals and stuff like that.
But it wasn't as random as some people think. Believe me, I have explained it all, because I have studied from the beginning of nothing to all the way to 5,000. From a million years to 5,000, I've been studying for 15 years. That's all I've been doing. Like
humans didn't exist 1 million years ago, though. But
what's that?
Modern humans didn't exist 1 million years ago, so I don't.
Right,
why
correct.
we go so far back.
Correct, but I don't start that spirituality was a human invent. Neanderthals buried before humans do. First Neanderthal bury is 130,000 in Croatia. Then it's 120,000 in North Israel. So humans aren't until 100,000 in Israel, and then 98 in I think it's Uganda, I think it is, and then in South Africa at 78 humans buried. So, but my point is. So yes, I do need to know where things came from, and that's the thing. Because I go back to the spiritual thing. I was an idiot. I didn't know nothing, but all of a sudden I realized in the classes when they showed me that the Satan, the devil, Lucifer, the serpent, that none of this was the same being. That blew my mind. I was like, oh, okay, wait a minute. So this is bullshit. And if this is bullshit, how the hell is there a God? And why does it? And I started logically thinking, and then I was just done with religion. Right there, 100% atheist. I was like, okay, this is all nonsense. Then I realized that doesn't mean that I think I know anything, because at the time I didn't. So I realized all these atheists are saying they know that God is not real or whatever. I don't know that. I don't even know fucking anything. So that's what I've done, is honestly wanted to look. So Christian, that's what I've done. I've honestly looked and tried not to have a biased opinion. I just want to know what is the truth. And I kept having to go further back, because every time I would go back further in detail, I would go culture, all across the world. And just like I had an archaeologist, Cory was there. I had an archaeologist on last time, and we talked about stuff, and he made an error. He said that the Zulus attacked the Bantu. And I said, well, actually, Zulu are Bantu speaking, because Bantu is a language group. Anyways, so part of the Niger comment.
We are now in.
But Christian, my point was, I know a lot. I've studied things that people have no idea how much I've studied. I've studied tons of languages all across the entire earth and how they connect. I've studied all kinds of how animal husbandry. I know where it started, where it goes, where pig farming. I know everything. I know where shit was put in the ground for the farming, the first, dog and human, and then in the Balkans, and then it was cows in the Balkans. So I know all this information. The point is about the information was just so that I could know the truth, because as you know, everyone's got opinions. Fuck, even when they don't know anything, when it comes to religion or non-religion, atheists opinions is like everyone has like shitloads of them. Whether or not they're valid in any way, they're not any less loud.
Well, I think that's the first part. If you want to, now we're actually, approaching more of an epistemology and stuff, right? But if you want to, if you think science in a broad sense, right, not natural science, but just science, and we include history into that term, like how, Germans use the word Wissenschaft, right, which includes more things than the English science word. It has to start at the point of you have to first acknowledge you're ignorant, right? You don't really know, and that's why you are supposed to do science, to learn about something you don't know, right? And the second is you have to be comfortable with not knowing, not being, you have to be comfortable with being uncertain, right? Because in the end, all human knowledge is uncertain, even the best, scientific theories.
Well, I wouldn't say it's all uncertain. You're just saying it all can
right?
have a level of certainty.
In theory, they are. I'm not saying that somebody's going to falsify the theory of evolution tomorrow, and that's not what I'm saying. It's probably
the worst of that.
Model
someone is not going to prove the moon is a hologram.
But it's at least a 0.1% chance that it's wrong, or some parts of it is wrong and stuff like that, right? But now we're approaching a subject which is quite far from, socialism and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine. But I want to talk with you about history, and that's why I asked you about history things. Could you tell us also? I want to not let this get by the anti-war movement, because I'm anti-war. I've said this before. Even if I had to go to war, physically hold a gun and have to kill people, I am anti-war. I hate it with every fiber of my being. I feel it is the most violent thing that a humanity could do to itself. But go ahead.
Well, the anti-war movement in Norway there are anti-war people, and there's some organizations that focus on being anti-war, but it's not what it used to be. When in 2003. The largest anti-war, demonstration in my country took place, right, because of the Iraq War, and I believe it's the same in your country, that the biggest anti-war demonstration was in relation to the Iraq War in 2003. Since then, that nothing comparable exists, today.
And why would you think that? Do you have an idea why that is?
To be honest, no, because I haven't thought that much about why, so I can't give a good answer.
I can speculate, phenomenon.
But I really do not know. No.
Well, I was just wondering if it was the rise of populism and all this Trumpism and authoritarianism rising and glorification of maybe that. Because what I'm saying is because authoritarians are always going to be violent.
I think that when it comes to right-wing populism, like Trump, or like more left-wing populism, like Bernie Sanders in your country, or like Jeremy Corbyn in Britain, that's more of a delayed reaction to the financial crisis in 2007, 2008, which is kind of I don't know. This is what I think, and I see them more as that, as a delayed reaction to both Bernie Sanders and Trump is a reaction to the financial crisis, right?
Yeah. I can see what you mean by that, because if I take it to what you mean, like say the Bernie Sanders, people I like him. I mean, not enough to care that he's wearing different gloves. I mean, to me, what was I saying? To me, you already know this. I'm an anti-classist, so whenever people
I
do
don't know
really classist stuff, sorry, it makes me gag.
I don't know what classist mean.
Classist, in other words,
is that a liberal term that you
worship.
shouldn't make fun of people?
I'm against worshiping people. Anyone, Marx, anybody, me, anybody. To me, everyone's equal. You worship someone, I think it's disgusting when they have like holidays for people and worship them. Like I said, you don't want to worship me. You know what you do? You worship reason.
Okay,
because that is what I feel you should be worshiping.
Okay,
so I'm just saying in that sense, but that's just because it has to do with the classist thing. I get it. It is part of that we self-class. It's disgusting. And we need to learn not to because we've been taught to self-class. Just like I'd say I don't call people family. I don't call them comrade, even though it's not that I don't feel a connection. I feel total solidarity with all communists, socialists, anarchists, generally, unless they are freaking want to go kill and hurt people, then they're probably not like me. But I mean, but in general, I'm just saying, yeah. So total, it's not like I'm trying to not use. It's because I'm making a point.
Okay, I don't understand that. To be honest, I'm gonna use the word comrade.
No. Yeah,
and I'm gonna sing the International, and I'm.
Yeah, correct. I'm saying, once again, I want to understand. I'm not attacking it. It's great. I hope everybody says it. Whatever. It doesn't matter to me. I'm saying to everybody, I'm a teacher. I am making a point.
But
I don't
how
say
is this
family.
relevant?
I don't say family. I don't say brother. I don't say sister. I don't say anything that alienates me from another dignity being. I treat every single living human on this planet equal as a teaching thing because someone's got to do it.
But so, as I said, I wanted to add something to my, how I see, Trump and Sanders and Corbyn and
right.
Syriza in Greece, Podemos in Spain, etc. It's not only that it's a reaction to the financial crisis, but it's also that the financial crisis showed that the kind of endo-history, the neoliberal mindset from the 90s, it was cracked, and so it also so Bernie Sanders is a reaction to neoliberalism, and so is Trump to some degree, even though his policy is actually quite in line with with
I understand
liberalism, but he tapped into an anger that is a result of that form capitalism have had in the West or in the world since the 80s, right? Yes, that.
So okay, so on Twitter you have under your bio you have class reductionist.
Yes.
So I wonder, is that kind of what you mean? Is like a lot of the racial issues, the gender issues that come up in various places? Do you mean like that this is a result, by and large, of neoliberal class division?
Well, I started using that more as it's more of a bit of a trolling, but
okay, well that's fair too.
But it at the same time I think that class, since as socialists our goal is a classless society,
right?
That's the prime, that's the core of our politics. And
I didn't know that, by the way.
It's a matter of priority.
Just so you
it doesn't mean when I say I'm a class reduction, it doesn't mean you shouldn't care about racial inequality.
Right.
Or sex inequality, or gender inequality, or sexual orientation inequality, whatever inequality and it doesn't mean that you should accept all kinds of bigoted views and bigotry and stuff like that. It means that the best way to organize a socialist movement is by class, because even though people are different and have different opinions about stuff and have perhaps some different interests when it comes to those more identity things, they have a common class interest, and that's which is it's the best way to organize a lot of different kinds of people, right?
Well,
Because they have this in
no,
common.
the best
They
way-
all are
no.
exploited by capitalists, right? And they have a vested common interest in ending that exploitation, right?
Yeah, but really, the best way to motivate people is values.
I disagree. I think you have to speak to their self-interest.
You are connecting. So no, you are doing the thing after the thing. How did they care about the class of people if it wasn't
Because
a
there
value
are
change?
I'm talking about working
It's not a
class people
value
themselves.
change.
You know, they have an interest in
Their value stays the same. You didn't help them grasp the value differently.
and that's you are more of an idealist, and I don't
I'm
mean
not
this
an
in a
idealist.
negative way. I'm just saying that your approach is more idealist, while
Well, okay,
mine
I
is
see what
more,
you mean. You mean but no,
materialist
well,
in a philosophical sense, right?
maybe.
And
you mean that I use kindness? Is that what you're talking about? And like as a
no,
motivator?
it simply means that you think that the best way to change the world is to change the people.
It is.
Well, I say that the best way to change the world and people is to change
But
society.
is not the people the world? If the people aren't the world, then what does the world mean?
Now we're just doing wordplay, right? You don't need to deconstruct my entire sentence. I'm also speaking in a language which is not my native language, right? So
I'm not
probably not the
But Christopher,
most.
I'm not
sufficient
doing it
English
to assassinate
speaker.
you or attack you. I'm trying to identify it so we can talk.
Right.
I'm just saying, I brought you on here because I want to
Yes.
hear your ideas. If I'm asking a question, it's not because I'm trying to attack you. I want you to explain. That's all.
But we can't deconstruct every sentence, right? I think my sentence was cohesive enough that you understood my point, right? I hope,
If I'm okay, I'm gonna try and do kind of explore this a little bit. So what I think Damien is saying is that it's not just that the people need to change, but that they all do share values in some way or another. And I'm of the opinion that we do have to change society, and also we have to convince people and change people. So
yes, but it's the matter is the order, right? So I would say that you have to change society in order to change the minds of people, right? That the
when does that
dominant way
work?
of thinking about morals and ethics now
I'm curious though, like
the
how
basis.
do you change society without changing people? Like that's the thing. Like from a left perspective, like we are like a very small minority of people, right? So we can't accumulate enough power per se to say create a vanguard party and take over power, or we can't even get enough people to vote for our ideas to take power in the traditional sense.
Dude, we can't even work on Twitter.
So how do we
attacking each other?
So my concern is that like if we limit ourselves to just saying that we have to change people, or we say we just have to change society first, like putting them in an order rather than doing them both, I think limits us and could potentially stymie any progress that we might make.
Okay, I can try to explain this in another way. So, but this is basic Marxism, right? Like this is how Marxists.
This is
how we think, right? And then some people would say I'm not a Marxist because I'm kind of not that fan of violent revolutions and stuff, right? But my mode of thinking is Marxist in that sense that I see that the way we have organized our society now in an economical way, right?
Yes.
That the economical base of society kind of creates a room and limit the scope of the range of what we can do and what we can think. It doesn't mean that everyone thinks the same. It doesn't mean that you can change things, but that you have to this is just in a figuratively speaking. You have to abolish that base and replace it with another. And if you really want to change the mode of thinking, because the mode of thinking from a Marxist perspective is in relation to the base.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah,
And of course,
absolutely.
like model thinking can, impact the base. Like even Engels in his later years admitted, that Marx and himself, they focused on the base and the economical factors in history to just get their point across. It doesn't mean that what people think or do had no effect. That it's all about economics. But the way our society now is organized, as which is in a capitalist way, that kind of creates a room, the range, and the limits of how we think. So our values are in relation, even us freed, which are radicals. Our values are to some degree liberal, right? We probably have a lot of liberal values. We like myself, I think that the concept that every human are equal is a good concept, right?
Absolutely.
But that concept
it's foundational for me. That's what I keep trying to say. There is no other concept for me.
That concept,
everyone's equal,
is pre-socialist. That concept is originally coined by Republicans. It's originally coined by a slave owner in your country, Thomas Jefferson, right? We believe we hold these truths that all men. I don't remember. Like what's it called? What does it say? We hold this truth to be self-evident that all men are created equal and that yet endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, which are among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I don't disagree with that, but I'm also very aware that that's a liberal idea. That's not a socialist idea. So even socialists go into the struggle to change capitalism into socialism with ideas and values which are in essence liberal, right?
Which is why I think we can turn, if we try hard enough, we can turn those liberals into socialists. I've gone.
Of course, but that's not my point. My point is that if you really want to change man, if you want to change the ethical standard of humanity to a degree we can't even imagine right now, you first have to change society.
Yeah, there's stages, right? Like you have to go through the stage that we're at right now, and when society changes, then the overall values of people will change. To more in line with our.
If you ask me, I don't want violent revolution. By the way, that's not my goal.
May I quote something?
Sure.
Which I think is very, very relevant to this, and this is an example where Bernstein, which is a socialist thinker I like and which a lot of people hate, but where he basically illustrates what I'm trying to say, but way better, because he was a better thinker and writer than I am. Okay, so he's saying that we have seen progressive movements upheld by most energetic men entirely collapse for no other reason than because they anticipated a state of social evolution which had not yet set in. On the other hand, whenever the industrial development has reached certain points, it has called forth social movements which, if differently garbed, according to special geographical conditions, are in substance alike in all countries. 20 years ago, a whole generation of heroic youth risked freedom and life in Russia to bring about a social revolution. They were sacrificed in vain. The material premises of their idea did not exist. Semi-Asiatic conditions of life prevailed in the greater part of the country. Since then, an increasing number of factories has been built, new railways have been constructed, the traffic increased, modern commerce extended all over the country, trade enormously expanded. These economic changes have revolutionized, and this is an important point, these economic changes have revolutionized the brains of the people more than all the pamphlets and leaflets written in glowing terms and distributed broadcasts by the young heroes who risked freedom and life for a generous ideal. Today it is admitted on all sides, this is in 1890s, by the way, that Russia has her own labor movement. The dream fostered by men like Bakunin of saving the Russians the period of bourgeois economy is done with forever. Neither can the all-powerful Tsar, to speak with Marx, remove it by decree, nor can the theory revolutionists make Russia jump over its phases of evolution with the aid of dynamite. I hope that made sense.
Right, I hear your position. My position is that we need education first. If we do not educate, if we don't instill in people values, then we're going to end up with this. It won't matter how we organize society. If we don't put the right values into society, the society is going to have a problem. It's not going to be ethical. And so to me, that's why some people will say, like, you know, they'll be with any anarchist. No, I will not be with anybody who's not a good person. If you are a horrid person and you keep demonstrating that to me, then I have to go. Then I need to not be around you. But that doesn't mean that I go and attack people. But I do hold people accountable, and which I think is an ethical thing in society, is to have values and hold people accountable. And just like you wanted to hold me accountable, you said, Damien, don't recite your words back to you and then hold you accountable to them. And the whole point is you felt that was okay, that you could say that you're in an environment where that other person would value your opinion enough to go, okay, I will listen.
I'm sorry, just my dog is.
Oh, that's fine. So to me, that's what I teach. You say idealism. I teach values. I'm a value theorist. I understand how values play in all the things we think, and value is just everywhere. The more accurate you can help people see value, the more they want something. That's what capitalists do in a negative way. They inspire, belief in things that shouldn't be. That's the same thing I feel with leaders. Worshiping leaders is inspiring belief in stuff that shouldn't happen. To me, this is the issue. We are all equal. Just like you said, anti-classist. To me, I didn't know that was a socialist thing, by the way.
What?
I said before that I was an anti-classist, not knowing even that anarchists would like it. I just knew that I saw that in the world and said that is the biggest load of fucking horseshit I have ever seen. I hate classism. From a child, why? Because this is what I wanted to give you is one why. As a child, my dad took me down to Hollywood, to the Diamond District. He was a jeweler. And then we were walking, and this woman was sitting naked. And I had never seen a naked person. We were like raised religious and stuff. I never watched TV and couldn't watch movies. My dad was super strict. And here's this woman naked, and everyone is just walking like she's not even there. She starts urinating. I'm like looking. I'm like, because it's in front of. I gotta step over it, or I didn't know what to do. I mean, this is like horrific. What? And everyone's just walking, boom, boom. And I was just sitting there in utter freaking horror.
Well,
How can
I guess
another human being be suffering or in need, and everyone does not give a fuck? That was the moment that I was an anti-classist.
Okay, so I think that describes, I'm just going to coin a term here, like it's a collective coping mechanism with something like homelessness, or that thing that you described. I think that will develop in any society where you have homeless people or drug addicts on the streets, or naked people on the streets, or
it was horror. I was unbelievable. I was so shocked.
And the thing is that we as individuals can't do that much, right? And that's why we develop these coping mechanisms. That's why we as a society must do something, right? That's why I'm interested in politics, because politics is a lever in which you can use to improve societies, to abolish homelessness, as one example, right? Or abolish medical debt, like private debt, as people in your country have, right?
Keep dude, we're totally we're agreeing, man. Keep it coming. You're in the party zone. Get it.
But I wouldn't say classist. The word classist is not a word that I have ever heard in a socialist setting, and I'm not sure what it means or how how it understands class, that term, but what class means in that term, because to me class is a economic arrangement, right? So
class is
slavery is a form of class relation between the slave owner and the slave, which is the property of the slave owner. In feudalism, you have a different kind of class relation between the lord and the serf, in which the serf and the lord have duties and rights in between each other, and which is based on its own kind of exploitation. And then you have the relation between wage laborer and the capitalist, which is the class society we live in now. Now, many people, when they think about class, they think about cultural signifiers, right? So they think that, like in your country, if you listen to country music, then you're working class, right? Which has shit to do with class, but, or like how which clothes you wear, or what kind of occupation you have, or these are cultural signifiers, which is not what Marxists mean when they talk about class, right?
well, like from the classism is, by and large, it's a type of bigotry defined by the class that one exists in. Although it's been stratified into more than working class and bourgeoisie, it's more like you've got middle class people looking down on homeless people. You've got the wealthy capitalists perpetuating the idea that anyone who isn't working is lazy. Stuff like that. Like that's classism, is what.
Yeah. Okay. So and that had very little to do with Marxist.
Yeah, it didn't come
understanding of class and class analysis, right? So it's of course it's shitty to be bigoted against people because of like cultural class signifies, right? But it's not my main issue, right? And I think it's in countries like Britain, where you still have an aristocracy. I think that's more prevalent in a more significant way. But yes, this thing exists that with it's it's how people, for instance, speak, like their socialist kind of often reflects class historically, but of course you can have rich people with a typical working class accent, right, and so on. But it's not really what I think about when I think about class. Like, so when I'm talking about the proletariat, I'm talking about people that don't own any means of production. Some of them don't even work. Some of them are unemployed, like myself, right? Yeah. Even though I'm unemployed, doesn't mean I'm not part of the working class. Which is why the working class as a term is fucking confusing, because people that think unemployed people are some other kind of class. But they are still working class of proletarians, which is why
And then what about the Intelligentsia? Because isn't that what Marx was? Because as far as I remember, didn't Marx never actually carry a gun or attack anybody? Or so he actually was only Intelligentsia, because he wasn't the working class, correct? Because he was living off of someone else's labor as a friend. Wasn't
well he was a journalist.
I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just identifying. Am I not correct, or am I wrong?
Marx's occupation was he was a journalist as an occupation.
Isn't that part of the Intelligentsia? As always, I was asking. Or is that a labor?
Was Engels, but so in the mid 19th century in Britain, where Marx ended up living, you might make the case that someone like Marx would be in the middle layers, right? In the kind of he's technically a working class person, because he probably worked for a wage and he doesn't own any means of production, but he has his type of occupation in that British society back then had so much kind of status attached to it that a typical journalist in the style of Marx would be understood as middle class. But from a Marxist analysis, Marx was probably what you would call a white collar working class person, right?
Yeah, so I was gonna ask you.
If you see me on Twitter, I hate the word middle class. I think that's the most dangerous word because it makes working class people think there's something else, and then they look down on, let's say you have a working class person that doesn't do manual labor, they work in an office. And then they suddenly think, oh, because I work in an office, I'm not. You have to work with a literal hammer or something to be a working class person. And then you have a very small working class then in Western developed countries, because like there are fewer and fewer manual labor jobs. There are more and more office jobs. There's more and more service, like in the service sector jobs. Like especially in Western Europe, a larger sections of the working classes now works in the public sector, so they aren't even directly exploited by a capitalist, right? But it's still, the point is, they still don't own any means of production, and they don't have enough liquid cash, laying around. So they are compelled to sell the labor. That's what makes them working class.
This is one of the differences that I've had with other people on the line online is like the idea that sex workers are being lumped into the the bourgeoisie or petty bourgeoisie group rather than as part of the proletariat. And I would argue that they are part of the proletariat, and they are workers, right? They are people who are not in control of their own fate, as it were.
Marx would call them.
I would say as long as they are in control of their own
lumpen proletariat. They are the bottom section. Like the lumpen proletariat are the people that are not able to work at all, right? Because of some physical or disabled people that can't work. Is one part of that. The criminal element of society are part of the lumpen proletariat, and prostitutes are part of the lumpen proletariat, according to Marx, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought of criminals.
That's part of the proletariat, but it's the bottom section, and it's the section of the working class that's hardest to organize and hardest to build a socialist movement on, and especially the criminal element is can turn reactionary. And he did like the foot soldiers of fascists, and
I've often said that like obviously I'm not pro the drug war in the United States or anything like that, but the system that is set up within organized crime to deal drugs is a very exploitative system.
Yes.
Right.
Which wouldn't be there if drugs were free. Right? If
even legal,
it would not be a problem.
Well, I'm in favor of decriminalization. I'm not for legalizing all kinds of drugs, right? I don't think
I'm for this. Real simple. Here's my values. An adult owns themselves.
My values
they own
say
themselves. They can kill themselves. They can get an abortion. They can cut their freaking genitals off and change their to their gender to match their who they are inside. They own themselves. They can drink as an adult. They can sex in it. They can have sex in their own family. If you are an adult and you are choosing by your own will with another adult who is also choosing of their own will, I support that. Doesn't mean I like it. I don't like a lot of things people do.
Okay.
Sexually, otherwise.
I'm just stating my position is that I'm in favor of decriminalized use. But I'm not in favor of legalizing, let's say, heroin. But I'm in favor of legalizing pot, right? Because I think there's a difference in the harm of those two types of drugs. But we shouldn't.
And I would say that even someone with heroin needs to be loved and respected as a fully equal.
Yeah, like the individuals who use it, equal. Right? Yeah.
But I would say something about sex work and why. Yes, it's a kind of form of work, but it shouldn't be the same in legal terms. And I'm going to explain why. And it's a case in Germany where you had an unemployed woman, and in Germany, sex work is just regarded as work. And she was sent as an unemployed. You have to work while you get a check from the state, and state or the unemployment office send you to some place to work. And she was sent to a brothel, right, which is basically the state forcing a woman to be raped every day to get an unemployment check. That's why, in legal terms, sex work shouldn't be work, shouldn't be understood as the same kind of work.
Yeah, like there's definitely ways that states are doing a lot of really weird things with sex work that where most sex workers that I know of are more in favor of like a decriminalization type model where they're just not targeted by the police and they're just not thrown in jail.
Yeah,
right?
of course. Yeah.
So,
That's a model we have in Norway. We have it's decriminal. It's not illegal to be a prostitute. It's illegal to be the John. It's illegal to be a John in Norway, right? So it's the transaction.
And see, I would have an issue with that.
illegal.
People own themselves. How the fuck are you going to say what another adult can do? Period.
I'm not in
as
favor
long
of
as they
prostitution.
want to do it.
I'm not. My party is not for legalizing prostitution, and neither am I. When it comes to people that have a webcam and they make like a movie like with themselves, like kind of amateur pornography, right?
Right.
If people want to do that, fine. But when prostitution, as in you sell your body directly to a person and that person penetrates you, or something like that. No, I'm not in favor of that being legal, right? And here more state socialist comes out, right? But
what if
this
it's
is
not
historically?
What if it's just women giving or men giving men hand jobs, right? Because guys like hand jobs. Let's just say that you're. So are you okay with? I mean, nobody's getting penetrated. They can even wear a plastic glove. I mean, is that legal? Because I mean.
No, not in Norway.
See, it's a value thing.
No. And
it's a value thing.
I think the American left has forgotten or don't know enough about.
Forgotten what?
If you let me finish. So the traditional view of the socialist labor movement all around the world from back in the day was they were not in favor of prostitution. They were in favor
of homosexuality, were they? Or trans people?
That's a different topic, right? So
I think that we can and ought
like
to
if you read
update some of our views on this, though. Like
Bolshevik thinker, she was not in favor of prostitution. So I don't know. It's the traditional socialist position.
Anyone do prostitution?
Saying the slogan "sex work is work." I'm just informing you about that. It's not a traditional socialist position. It's I don't see socialists in other countries outside of America like really saying that.
Yeah,
that the American left is kind
Cory
of
also, right? Is that part our anarchism and not socialism? I don't know.
Maybe.
I would say it's more of a liberal argument than either anarchist.
Okay, whatever. That's my view.
Yeah, it's fine. I have liberal
what the fuck you call it.
Other matters, right?
Yeah,
like the Norwegian socialist labor movement for like 100 years ago. A lot of those people were in favor of prohibition of alcohol, right?
Yeah,
I'm not in favor of prohibition of
I don't
alcohol.
even drink.
But they were, right? It was the one matter where the Christian movement in Norway and the workers' movement were agreed on prohibition, right? I'm not in favor of prohibition of alcohol.
I don't smoke either. I quit smoking, and guess what? I totally support smoking.
That's where
I like smoking because I believe in freaking rights.
Although in the case of smoking, I think that, and even alcohol, actually, like there's a serious capitalist class that owns the production of those things and is distributing them to people and has, in many cases, misinformed the public about the effects of those things.
No, it absolutely has done that. You're correct, Cory, yes.
And I use other kinds of tobacco. I'm addicted to nicotine. I both smoke and I use something called snus.
But it also gives you enjoyment in life. So, it's like saying,
I drink beer.
Food is bad.
Right?
Yeah, but it also is damn enjoyable. A burger, whew. Yes, it supports a capitalist class and a whole bunch of things I hate. But yeah, man, you know what I'm saying? I think that there's also reason in there. I mean, I got to live in the world. What am I supposed to do? Go and try to hunt somewhere and take my own game? And then, of course, someone owns that land. They'll probably shoot me for being on their land or taking their deer or whatever. Like the kings used to do.
Yeah. Well, we seem to have hit a break.
Yeah, we have. How long have we been going on now?
For an hour and a half.
Yeah, about an
Wow,
hour and a half. So
that's a long ass time.
So did you
No,
have fun? Anything else you want to share?
I just, if people want to kind of read something that's relevant to my kind of socialism and my understanding, my kind of Marxism, I guess, I would recommend that they read. Fuck. I have to put this Karl Marx and Social Reform by Bernstein from 1897.
okay.
It's not his revisionist work, which came 2 years later. It's not as revisionist. It's more an argument for reformism within like a more traditional Marxist understanding. Well, when he tried to revise Marx 2 years later, he did a lot of, I disagree with a lot of the stuff he's doing there. But this text I just showed you is very good. And I would, if people want to know more about socialist history in general, this book by Donald Sassot, I don't know if that's pronounced correctly, 100 Years of Socialism by Donald Sassot is great. Wow. It's thick though, it's 800 pages.
Those are the books I've had to read before.
Yeah, that's a big one.
So,
and your Twitter is
my handle is that what's it called? It's at CH Florelius, which is the same as my last name.
Perfect.
Right on. Well, I really appreciate having you on, man.
Yeah, thank you for letting me on. And convincing all of your views that they should be state socialists instead of anarchists, right?
Well, no. All I say is I don't actually promote anarchism. I say that my game is simple. I promote being a good person.
I was just trying to be funny.
No, I just want to make a point. I am an anarchist. I do think that is the way to go. But I also am for good people. If your way is the way we end up with, I'm happy. I'm not saying that I wouldn't still desire some change, but I'm just saying that my goal is simple. I want to be a good person and support good people. And I know it's good people like us doing things in the world that will do what I think will be needed, which is the education. Because education is not just found in a book. It's learning behavior. It's learning value. It's learning. We've interacted with each other and not fought and called people names. It's learning how to have interaction. I mean, obviously they need to learn this shit. Look at Twitter. Ooh.
Well, if we're going to discuss that, but we shouldn't. But it's some incentives going on Twitter that makes everyone sometimes not the nicest person. It's incentivized to be an asshole, I guess. Sometimes I have done not that nice things on Twitter. Like my when you quote tweet someone and makes fun of what they're saying, that's not a nice thing to do, but it feels good to do it, right? And it gets a lot of likes.
It always feels good.
Yep. Yeah, and it gets a lot of likes. And if I argue with them, then I might not get as many likes. But if I quote tweet them, then I'll get the likes from my audience.
Right. Yeah, because if you make like a long ass thread about like a serious topic, like something from history or something about like Marxist theory, then perhaps like 3 people likes it, and it takes perhaps an hour to make that thread. It takes a long time. But if you just like post a meme that's funny, or you make fun of someone you quote tweet someone and makes fun of them, then that creates more likes and more engagement, right? So it's those incentives on Twitter. 7.
That's a good point. We're incentivized by the capitalist society to actually destroy the left in a way that we're not ready for.
Right.
They're making us actually hate other leftists.
You're focused on people being good persons, but that's one of the problems with capitalism, is that it gives incentives that make good people do bad things, right? Like,
Totally. Oh,
like,
yeah. That's why
like,
that's why I say, you guys, I don't hear a lot of socialists say it, but I love saying it. Capitalism to me is unethical. It claims it is an amoral system operating in a moral sphere, and also treating its workers immorally. I mean, give me a freaking break.
Yeah, if you want to approach it from a moral standpoint, you can make the case that there are a lot of immoral things about capitalism. But I would recommend one thing before I go, and that's that people should read The Good Person from Szechuan by Bertolt Brecht, which kind of deals with this topic is that you can have a good person, like even though you educate people to have the best values within capitalism and they're the best person ever, if they are a capitalist, then they have to make some choices to keep being capitalist, right? To keep being on top of the competition, to keep accumulating capital that sometimes are not the morally right thing to do, like from a moral perspective, right? Now, this play by Brecht is not that direct, but it kind of deals with that problem. It's short. It's about a woman who have this little tavern or something in Szechuan in China, and she just wants to be nice with people, and she's a good person, or see herself as a good person. But her customers are such nincompoops that they kind of annoys her, and they do like they are very, very difficult to deal with. So she creates an alter ego to like deal with the customers, because she wants to be seen as good, but then she creates this alter ego, which is her brother, which is her. She kind of like dresses up as her brother, and then that brother is the asshole, right? He do all of the asshole things. So it's a very good analogy, I guess, to what incentives.
And I understand things often in a way because I understand value structures and how to use terms and words and things in very, very powerful ways. I do a lot of stuff that's like dignity attack and dignity enrichments. And when I say to someone, and I've done this many times, people are being a troll online, and I don't say, they say blah, 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 and I just say, are you a good person? That's a dignity attack. And let me tell you, it stops them in their tracks. I've had maybe 50 interactions where I've used that, and only 3 people have responded. It stops. It is like a nuclear bomb to their mind. Telling you. My point is, I get how powerful, in a sense, propaganda is. We are social creatures. This is how we think. And so I get, as an anarchist, why fight that? No, we monopolize on it in a healthy way.
I'm not against education. I'm not arguing against that. I'm in my local party chapter. I'm in charge of holding study groups, about Marxist theory and stuff like that. So I'm very in favor of education, and of course, propaganda is
well, all education is propaganda. To me. The point
all
is it healthy?
Again,
is it unhealthy? That's all. Because it's all propaganda. But that's not a bad thing. If it's healthy, if it's true, science is propaganda. We're trying to promote an idea of the truth, and we understand it at this moment. As you say, it could change, but this is the truth as we understand it at this moment. That's propaganda. My point, though, is there's nothing wrong with that as long as it actually is something close to the truth. Then there's nothing wrong with that. Just like Cory knows. People don't know as much about me in prehistory. Even if they think they do, they really haven't understood how much I know. But the point is, how I convince them that I know is I show them the truth, the facts, not my opinions. So that's what I was saying, is that it's education that changes their minds about me. It's education. Done. That's what does it. And I see the value of it. That once you, and so I realize too that what I've done, the capitalist, I have not rushed, like you said, about getting my stuff proved, like in a science journal. My goal is to fuck the world up. I'm a revolutionary. What's the most fucked up thing I can do? Make sure that the proletariat gets free education of how fucked religion is, and when all this bullshit of fucking force and stuff happen, and sexism, let them have this education, and I've given it all for free. 15 years of work, hours and hours and hours, and I've given every single bit of it, Christopher, for free. Because my goal is that is the revolution. Not the only one, but it is. We need to have a new understanding of the reality of the past, because we'll never understand why we keep doing the dumb shit we keep doing. I have become more humble in understanding the world as a result of understanding the world than I ever did with just my opinions before understanding the world.
Well, I don't know as much about prehistory as you do, because I never studied prehistory. I studied history, which starts 5,000 years ago.
But how much did you pay for your history? Or how much did the state have to pay? I'm just saying to you is I have given the world, not just you, but the world, the prehistory for free. I mean, you don't have to buy my book. I've given it all for free. I've worked.
I would say though, for your own sake.
Out of my own savings, yes, I've spent probably about $12,000 to $15,000 of my own money, and that's also been just given away for free. But they don't get. That's the revolution for me.
But if you want your ideas out there, you should. I said this to you before on Twitter that you should try to get one article.
Yes, I should, because every scientist that looks at it, their mind gets blown.
Yeah, then you should But the thing is that in today's world, in today's society, that if something is going to be taken seriously in a scientific or academic sense, it has to be peer-reviewed, right? It has to go through that process. And so if you are as comfy, I'm not on that topic educated enough to check out your ideas and see if they.
But I guarantee if you started to just look at my blog, if you looked all the way through one blog,
I don't have the expertise to evaluate it, right? So if you take some of the things you have, worked with, some topic about prehistory, and then you write an article and you send it into a peer-reviewed, journal, and if it's accepted, then more people will know about your work, more people know you.
Oh no, I agree,
and it will probably help you.
Yes.
In many ways.
Right, but so I just finished with everything I wanted to do, like a month or two ago or something. So I just so you know, I just stopped my research. I got rid of all my books. Cory's seen it. I got rid of all my stuff. I mean, I'm done. So, but that was the point is, up until that point, I was still researching, but now I'm done. I know enough that what I have is so devastating. It's beyond unbelievable. It's going to change. And when everyone sees it, they just go, "Oh, fuck." But anyways, so because I understand language, so that'd be the first thing I would do, just so you know, because everybody really cares about the Proto-Indo-European language, because it has to do with later everything like German and French and Italian and
English, Norwegian.
Right. So, but that would be my goal would be then I understand that the North Asians, through millet farming people who already had language, they give language all the way to the Balkans.
Just 1 minute, Damien. I just have to close the door and then I'll be right back. Then I'm back. Did Cory?
So that's what I would say. Basically, that because they already kind of are figuring out science. There's already people that are figuring out the whole eastern part of the world is all connected linguistically. And so this is the difference. They think maybe, but I think that also connects to the beginning of the Proto-Indo-European and the Ukralic, which is, of course, what you guys speak. So all of that, in a sense, is connected but all through North Asia. It all comes from North China to Siberia, from Siberia to Kazakhstan. From Kazakhstan, it splits off, in a sense. Of course, yours, in a sense, Ukralic, goes from Siberia to Russia, from Russia it
Norwegian,
goes to
Norwegian
the Baltic.
but
Norwegian.
Damien, Norwegian is not a I don't know how to pronounce that, but it's not the same as, it's not in family with Finnish or Sami. It's a Germanic language, you know.
I didn't know that. Okay.
German
look, I was wrong.
and English.
Yeah, that's fine.
And Christian, right? So, which again is Indo-European.
Correct. I didn't know that, right? But yeah, so it's still Indo-European. My point though is, all these, in a sense, start at a certain. If you look at the time, all the times are almost the same. The movement's the same. The idea is the same. In fact, the mythology is the same. A lot of the stuff, the Acralic, sounds a lot like the mythology of the Proto-Indo-European. That sounds a lot like the people in North Asia too, before they start diversifying. So all the original, like, mono myth or something is similar. So there has to be some, and plus the DNA spreads from there over. And then also you have violence, the first violence. You have it's 7,000 years ago, the first, in a sense, mass grave violence. Well, actually, the first one is in Africa at 13, but in Europe it's 7,000, but it is another one. But anyways, and then from then on, it's like boom, 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 a whole bunch of them, and all relates to this new. They're using clubs, they're using hierarchy, they're slaving for the first time in this area. They're coming in, and the 50% of the population or more becomes these new peoples, genetics. Yeah, anyways. So to me, that I would say, if I were to produce something, I would say it's that connection that I understand. Okay. I feel that connection better than most people, because I've been researching because I have started by actually seeing the pottery. I followed the pottery, then I followed the people. Oh, the DNA goes that way too. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, and then language goes that way. Oh, well, that makes sense, I guess, And then religion follow. Oh, okay. Oh, and I started understanding how these things are connected. So to me, really though, that middle part of from North Asian stuff, and they call it trans-Caucasian languages, and Proto-Indo-European, I think are absolutely connected to me.
I can't speak to it because I don't know anything.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying that you asked about.
I do know a little bit about Indo-European.
I was just saying, you said I should make an article, and I was saying if I were to make one, I think that would be the one that I have the most confidence that I'm right.
You should do that.
Close to right.
Yeah. Yes, you should absolutely do that. And but I can't say anything about it because I don't know anything about it.
Well, right. So that's why what I do is I get peer-reviewed things that prove my point, prove my point. Because I just do facts. This is why I think this. And I also show historical context. This is the same way that the Turks went. This is the same way the Mongols went. This is the same. What was the other one? It was something else. But anyway, so I show how, I think it's the Zhang Yu or something. But I show how the patterns of movement, I think it went this way. It's somehow the stuff gets from China and then shows up in the Balkans somehow. Well,
all right.
Somebody had to take it. So I'm just showing that I know the DNA moves this way. And I know that I was just saying culturally, all the movements all go this same direction. So I show this, that how my thinking is very reasonable, because everyone always did this for like every generation that went. All of them do this. And so it just matches a complete pattern that they've been doing this entire time. It's like, so in other words, what we call the Silk Road was already happening, especially in north through Siberia. But even lower down, it's already in a sense happening through the Intermountain Corridor, which I also have a blog and I talk about. Not want you to trust me. I try to give facts and explain what all this means, why, and then what.
The basis of sciences or any kind of science.
Right, like I said,
it's skepticism, right? It's skepticism, and of course I'm skeptical. I don't know if you are correct or not, but as again, when it comes to me as a person, I don't know too little about this topic to even have I can't even have an opinion, right?
What you mean? You can have an opinion. You can't have a formed opinion. What you mean?
Yeah, it's no point in having an opinion just for the sake of having an opinion if you don't have any basis
Oh my
make
God! Do
your
you
opinion.
think
I
that's
can
ever stopped anyone on
speculate,
Twitter?
right? As when the thing I know about the Indo-Europeans, and this might be wrong, but that it was a group of people living around the Black Sea, and that the Proto-Indo-European developed among those people, and
the
I think they
Yamana,
were like force people. But,
Yamana.
that's all I know about the origins of Proto-Indo-European. I don't know.
But they don't know where that people come from. But that people, the Yamana, has 3 types of DNA. They have DNA from the Eastern hunter-gatherers. I think it's 30%. And then they have DNA from the ancient North Eurasians. And then they have DNA from the Western steppe herders. Can't remember the percentages now off the top of my head. But anyways, so yeah, but those people, in a sense, all actually have ancient North Eurasian. Every single one of them have it from different sources, because I have a map that shows that the DNA of what they did and the time frame they did it in. So but that's the point I try to say. The whole thing is that everyone thinks religion keeps separate. Nah, man, it's so connected. It's like weird, crazy almost. Like, how is it disconnected? They're going back and forth and spreading ideas all over the world. It's mind-boggling, seriously. The real history, and I know you have to be skeptical because you're uninformed of it. But I'm just saying, if you go look at my stuff, everything is backed up. I have links to research and everything. You can go look more. I mean,
by being skeptical, I'm simply saying, Damien, that I can't just.
Right.
Since you said it, it's like, okay, then
yes,
that's true.
And I wasn't asking you to. That's why I said I want education. Yes. I never asked for trust.
But of course, religion, from a Marxist perspective, of course, it's tied in with societal development. From a Marxist perspective,
it is.
Religion had the role political ideology have now in some sense, right?
Well, Marx is correct.
In feudalism, that first, especially Catholicism, functioned as a justifying ideology for the feudal society, right? Justified, the king's right to rule, right?
Right.
Divine right to rule.
Divine right of kings.
As a very simple example, and it's then to be expected that religion in even all the types of societies would play the same role, and perhaps even a bigger role, like philosophy, right? Then I guess religion was the only game in town of thinking about things for humanity, right?
It was.
Yeah. So
I looked, and that's my opinion. Of course, it's my speculation from the evidence, but yeah, I've looked, and yeah, I would say that absolutely. And like I said too, I totally agree with Marx. That's what you said. His opinion about society. Okay, his was an analysis. You said I've looked at the facts, and they match the facts. That's what
it's how he
guessed it or whatever. But I'm telling you, I looked at the facts, and that is the fact. Period.
It's it's more how Marxists think about religion and other kinds of ideas.
And I'm just saying that's
other kinds of
it's
ideological.
Not a guess. It's now true. It's true.
Maybe
I know it's true.
I can't evaluate it. So
read the blog.
I can only see maybe. Yes.
No, but isn't that great? That Marx's opinion is correct. I looked, and that opinion is absolutely
true. He was a very bright man, right? So
right on. All right, Cory.
We've been very quiet for a long time now, Cory.
Yeah, I got other stuff on the go a little bit, but
all right,
I've been listening.
You need to go?
Yeah, I got to get going.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead and Christopher, you already promoted yourself. Did you want to say anything? And then I'll have Cory tell us, and then we'll leave.
I can just say goodbye, but I can start by saying it. My name is Christian, not Christopher. But yeah, I would just say, thank you for having me on. It's been, I think it was, fun and hopefully informative for the viewers. And
Right on.
it was fun, and again, thank you for letting me on to your show.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
All right, Cory, go ahead and tell us about your stuff, and then we'll go ahead and end it.
Sure. It's The Mind of a Skeptical Leftist on YouTube, podcast apps, and my Twitter is @SkepticalLefty.
Right on. Take care.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Hello, and welcome to my channel. I am Damien Marie AtHope. In the simplest terms, I am an atheist-humanist philosopher and prehistorical writer-researcher at DamienMarieAtHope.com. I am specifically an axiological atheist. An axiological atheism can be thought to involve ethical and value theory reasoned and moral argument driven apatheism, agnosticism, atheism, antitheism, antireligionism, secularism, and humanism. Axiological atheists can be understood as a value theory or a value science atheist. As an axiological atheism's ethically reasoned and constructive pro-humanity, I am an axiological thinker, value theorist. The science of goodness, worthiness, usefulness, valuableness, virtue, reliableness, accuracy, validity, morality, integrity, beneficialness, etc., etc. We axiologists have a value consciousness. And in general, we see the architecture of humanistic humanitarianism value in people that we see as dignity beings. Places and things are not. Axiology is a value theory. In its broadest sense, it involves areas of philosophy that are deemed to encompass some evaluative or evaluation aspect. Therefore, it crosses almost all domains in some way or another. Now for a more detailed terms as to what I am. I am an axiological atheist, an anti-theist, an anti-religionist, secularist, humanist, rationalist, writer, artist, poet, philosopher, advocate, activist with schooling in psychology, sociology, as well as I am an autodidact, self-taught in science, archaeology, anthropology, and philosophy. I promote science and am against pseudoscience, pseudo-history, pseudo-morality, things that are found in religion. I support realism, axiology, of course, liberty, justice, ethics. I am also an anarchist socialist. I support anarchism and socialism, progressivism, liberalism, philosophy, psychology, archaeology, and anthropology, advocating for sexual, gender, child, secular, LGBTQIA+, race, class rights, and equality. So if you can guess from all that, I support or challenge that I have an eclectic variety of videos on a variety of topics. Please take time to check them out, as well as if you enjoy them, please give them a like. And don't forget to subscribe, as new things are on their way all the time for my channel.